Hey, what's up, weebs? Spoilers for Lycoris Recoil Episode 10 coming up, so turn back now before it's too late. Alright, so I've been watching Lycoris Recoil. Great show. Definitely recommend it, but now I want to actually talk about it because I was particularly intrigued by Majima's speech near the end of Episode 10, which on the surface sounds like the usual villain drivel, but it actually seems to reflect some of Japan's current political predicaments. There may be some nuance lost in the translation, but let's dissect parts of the speech he gives on live broadcast. So he says, while other countries are duking it out with terrorism and warfare, this country is peace itself, so much that it feels disgusting. Because the people have a high cultural standard? Japanese people are amazing? Worthless people always want to take pride in categorizing. So here, Majima questions the premise of a peace-loving Japan. He mocks the idea of Japan being a peaceful country because its people are supposedly more civilized and peace-loving. In this fictional Japan, crimes and terrorism are covered up by the DA to create a facade of fake peace. Similarly, real-life Japan has adopted a peaceful demeanor through Article 9 of its constitution, which prohibits Japan from waging aggressive wars and limiting the size and scope of their military. Historically, however, the country was a ruthless imperialist power that was only forced to embrace pacifism under American occupation. Japan's pacifist constitution was essentially not a product of Japanese people, but something artificially forced on them by the Americans to demilitarize the country and curb its aggression. And then Majima goes on. Terrorism has happened multiple times, they've just been covered up. A hard sell of peace filled with lies and exaggeration. They put a lid on any impurities. This country has a bunch of people adhering to such a filthy peace. Here he criticizes the fake peace in Japan that the DA has created by covering up terrorist attacks and crimes. Similarly, in real-world Japan, there is also a fragile peace created by the country's pacifist constitution. While post-war Japan has mostly adhered to its pacifist ideology, some of its neighbors, unfortunately, have been less than accommodating. In the 70s and 80s, there had been a series of kidnappings perpetrated by North Korea against Japanese civilians, with a total of 17 officially recognized cases. Some of these victims were eventually returned to Japan many years later through diplomatic efforts, but most either died or simply disappeared. Fast forward a couple of years later, North Korea conducted a series of ballistic missile tests, many of which flew dangerously close to or over Japanese territory. For a country with first-hand experience of nuclear destructive power, this was a grim challenge of its pacifist ideals. And now, in 2022, when U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan on a diplomatic mission, China responded with military drills to intimidate the small island nation that ended up with 5 Chinese missiles landing in Japan's exclusive economic zone. This has led to another debate of the country's pacifist constitution and arguments for remilitarization. Just as the DA in the fictional Japan has created a fake peace by using extrajudicial force to suppress and cover up crimes, Japan's Article 9 has, in a way, created a fake peace in which Japan is forced to endure aggressive provocations against it while its hands are tied behind its back. Majima's words during his debate with Kusunoki ring especially true in this case. He asks her, "Won't people forget about the meaning of peace if they don't know of the tragic reality?" Because while Japan remains committed to its pacifist ways, the tragic reality is that its neighbors are not playing by the same rules. And can a pacifist country that is technically not at war really claim to be at peace when its sovereign rights and security are being trampled on by foreign aggressors? Just as Majima is attempting to overthrow the DA so that the fictional Japan will be rid of its mask of fake peace, there are nationalist activists attempting to rewrite Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution because they believe that the best way to achieve true peace is through having a stronger military to act as a deterrent to foreign aggression. And then there's Shisato herself, who could also be seen as a symbol of Japanese pacifism. with Mika representing the pacifist faction that seeks to preserve Article 9, while Yoshi represents the nationalist faction seeking to renounce pacifism. And just as Chisato's no-killing code is constantly being challenged by the villains in the Allen Institute, Japan's pacifist constitution is being threatened by evolving geopolitics. But the biggest question to take away from all this is how much longer can Japan afford to live in its utopian peace until a Majima or an aggressive China or North Korea finally forces its hand? But yeah, anyways, that was just a random thought I had as I was browsing some new Chisataki fan art. What do you think? Is Majima's speech a subtle political critique, or maybe I'm just high on all this stuff?